Now, as this evening will unfold, with lots to get through, lots of your questions. We also have some emailed questions from people who can't possibly make it tonight. And we'll also have a presentation as well from the Club Doncaster Foundation, which we are thoroughly looking forward to. Okay, so we're going to start our evening, and Terry, of course, there has been a change at the top, and you are now the chairman of Doncaster Rovers Football Club. Your thoughts and opinions on how that's come about and how you feel about it now?
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Well, good evening, everybody, and well done for coming tonight. We haven't got the snow yet, but I know it's very cold out there because I've been out quite a bit today, and it's freezing. So, and genuinely, it is lovely to see you all here tonight, and I know I've been to previous meetings, and we've been doing this for a long time, and it's one of the reasons I hope when I'm going home, I say to myself, now I know why. I made myself available to Doncaster Rovers in 2006 to support John Ryan because for many of you, I know this is your life and the Rovers are important, and I am aware that a lot of that now is more my responsibility. I need to go back in time a little bit from 2006. Dick Watson and I, we joined John, and I suppose now it's about 8 years ago when Dick and I took it on our own, and we brought David in, David Blunt. He had been playing a role then, but he and John never really seemed to get on too well. But it was then a question when John left of who was going to be chairman, and Dick didn't want the role. I was about to assume the role of High Sheriff of West Yorkshire. Now I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the role of High Sheriff. I know you only take it on for a year, but how assiduous are you going to be? Well, Liz and I were quite assiduous, and we had 200 events in that year and I knew it was going to be something like that, which was far too much to be doing everything else we did and to assume the chairmanship of the football club. So I asked, Dick and I asked and said, well, David, will you do it? And David said, with some little persuasion, he said, yes, I will. I'll take it on. The three of us at the time, we knew, well, David will be chairman, but the financing was always down to Dick and myself. And that we were quite happy with that. And it went along well for a few years, and unfortunately, of course, Dick passed away. So it was left to his children and me to do the funding. And a couple of years ago, they decided that they didn't want to be involved in the football club anymore. So they left, and they gave us their shares, cancelled their loans, just as John had done. And so that was left to David and myself, and then we brought Gavin in as a shareholder too. And because by that time we knew how essential Gavin was to this club, the job he was doing, the ideas he was bringing. So he could work well with two old people like Dick and me and deliver and make sure that the club got the attention that was required in all aspects. So that was how it was 8 years ago, and then moving forward a little bit. But the last couple of years have not satisfied any of us. And we hear how you guys are. You need to know you don't feel any more disappointed about it than I do, and David does. We like to win. With my life, certainly my business life, it was all about winning, and that's what drives me. I was no good on the football pitch or on any other pitch. I wasn't bad on a squash court, I could manage that. But on a football pitch, I don't pretend to be able to do that. But I do like winning. And that's what I want to be doing with the Rovers. Anyway, we've not done so well. and I thought, well, how can it change? What can I do about it? And I made room a little bit more time at home and with our family. We don't have a family business, but it's a lot of stuff that needs managing. And I've made room there by our daughters will be assuming a greater role this year. It's from Jan 1, so I thought, well, this is probably an ideal opportunity. There must be a reason, really, why I was handing stuff over to her to make time available. And since I made the decision or the request, I said, David, I want one day I said, oh, can I see you in the morning? I want to talk about the football club. And so he said, yeah, sure. So we had a coffee at Wentbridge House. And I said, David, I'd like to assume the role of chairman now. I feel that after this year and how much money I've put in, we being the family, my family, not with David. David never wanted to put any money in, and I've accepted that. And I felt, well, we put the money in, but we're still not quite there. So I want to really get around the club more than I have in the past. So I said, that's what I'd like to do, David. It's fine, Terry. He said, over to you then. So that morning, we met at Wentbridge House, about 10 o'clock. And he said, well, there's a meeting with Grant and Gavin. He said, you better go. So I got back in the car, and instead of going back north, I drove south, and we had our first meeting, didn't we? With me as chairman, and that might evolve a little bit, on roles and delegation and so on. So that's what I spent the time doing, and then saw Matt, who's our new FD, and we had a few honest thoughts and opinions passed between us in that part. So altogether, it's a bit exciting. The big disadvantage was that was on a Friday, and on Sunday I was going away for 2 weeks, and I still kept going away. So I missed all the Christmas period, and after the first 3 losses, I thought, have I made the right decision? Am I having the right influence on the club? Well, we had a couple of good games after that, fortunately. Thank you, Grant, for that, which made us quite chirpy. But that was until Saturday, of course. I wasn't so chirpy after that. Most of you may know, of course, that Mr. Weaver and I have been competitors for 55 years. And it's just like business was in a way, but today business is Harrogate Town versus Doncaster Rovers, and long may that competition continue, because I like the way Harrogate are developing as a club. I live there, so I read all about it. When Harrogate Advertiser comes, it's it must be Simon Day, which always is. It's a Thursday when it comes, and because there's so much in the paper on Harrogate Town and Simon. We've usually got his picture, and I always put it on Liz's place and say, oh, it's Simon Day, darling. So she reads about Harrogate Town and tells me all about it. But no, the competition was good when we were building and in the construction industry, because you know what your competitors are doing, run the right under your nose, much better than you do if they come from left field. But I'm looking forward to the day when we do give Harrogate Town a good thrashing, I can tell you. And we're working at that all the time. Now, Jonathan, I know I'm not rambling on. There is a good story there, and I'm delighted to share it with you, and I hope you don't find it too boring. But was there anything in your question that I've not yet covered?
No, I do believe you've covered everything there quite comfortably.
All right, well, I'll shut up till the next question. Thank you very much.
Right, our chairman's got us underway tonight, and I'm sure one or two of you have got some questions inside of you. Sincerely hope so. So if you can raise your hand if you would like to raise a question to our top table tonight, and if you would like to be concise, get to your question very, very quickly, and also give us your name. So first up, we have this gentleman here. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
Brian. Grant. When we were building half-backs, we want some more half-backs in, but I don't think that's good enough.
I'm probably still a bit too young to know what half-backs are. Do you mean centre-backs? Centre-backs. Okay. Yeah, we feel like we've recruited a really good one in Jay McGrath. Bobby Faulkner's got back to fitness now, as well as obviously Joseph Olowu and Owen Bailey, who I feel has been really good at centre back when he's played there in a 2 or a 3. Richard Wood's probably about 2 or 3 weeks away, and probably hasn't got going as yet. He's struggled with a calf injury, and it's really been disappointing for Richard, because previous to that he hasn't had any injuries, and he's really robust, and that's why we signed him. But unfortunately, it's a bit of a freak sort of injury that he's got. We've also got young Will Flint coming through the academy. We've got Tom Anderson. I think we've got quite a lot of centre halves at the football club. Yes, I've spoken to Gavin that 1 or 2 may have to leave for us to improve and get better. So we're working on that as well. But I think we've got an abundance of centre-backs at the football club. And it's very difficult for me to ask Terry and Gavin all the time, we need another centre-half, when we've got 7 or 8 in the building. So we just need to get them better, and we need them to be better for us as a team.
Brian, thank you very much indeed for your question. I think we've got the definition of half-backs sorted out there, lovely. Thank you. I'm sure there's plenty of us in the same vintage who'll understand that. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
It's for Gavin. Bruce Hatton. Talking about injuries, we seem to have quite a lot this season, as other clubs do, and we're wondering if there's a common denominator in the injuries. Are they muscle pulls? Are they ankles? You know, what I'm trying to say is, if they're all of one sort, why are we taking so long? Is nobody investigating why they're happening? Is it footwear? Is it lack of shin pads? Because I noticed when I was playing, the shin pads were that big. I know now you can get them in your pocket. You know, I just wondered if there was a common denominator, and if it was being worked on. Is it all ankle injuries? Is it full muscle? Are they all different injuries?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a question that we have asked ourselves. And I know that the football club has done an investigation into it, and I'm sure Gavin will go into further details on that. Unfortunately for us, a lot of the injuries are trauma, things that we can't control. When I say trauma, I mean, you know, that a lot of knee injuries with players that have had and it's just continued, and they've needed reoperations and things like that, and they've not just come back from it. The muscle injuries hasn't been too bad for us this season. There has been the odd one, like the Richard Wood or George Broadbent, who's missed a couple of weeks, and little things like that, but it's not been serious. But the longer term injuries are more things that we can't control. You know, they're things that happen in every day, in every football club in the country, unfortunately. And I think you see Newcastle's going through it at the minute, with all the equipment and the resources they have. I think we've just been really unfortunate with some of the trauma ones. And I do get your question, but I know it's been a theme for a few years at the football club. But I guess everything boils down to recruitment, understanding the medical history of the players, how many games have they played. I think from us, that's all we can control as a management team and the physio team and the sports science team. Then it's whatever happens after that, some things you can't control, and I think that's happened.
I just always thought that prior to a player joining the club, he had a medical. You know, would these injuries be picked up on these medicals? You know, and a lot of them seem to be long term. You know, they're out for quite a while. I just wondered you know, why basically?
Well, look, I personally can't speak about what's happened previous years. I can only speak about my own. So one thing we will do, and we are doing, is we're making sure the players are properly medicaled now when they come in, and there's a real investigation in terms of how robust they are, how many games have they played, what are they like on an everyday level, do they train every day, do they miss a day's training and come back and things like that. So hence why we've brought in probably one of the best head of medicals we could get in David Rennie, 20 years experience at Leicester City. You know, for us, and hope Gavin and Terry don't mind me saying, it's a real coup for the football club to bring this guy in, and I thank them for their support in doing that. But we want to improve all the time, and he will certainly raise the bar on that in terms of players coming in. I don't think you'll see the benefits of this for the next 6 to 8 months, personally, in terms of the injuries and things like that. But I think once he gets his hands in and he gets a grip of it, I think the football club's in a good way going forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you for your question. So don't worry, everybody in the middle and the back, I'm going to get to you, but eager hands are being raised down here. To you, sir, what's your name and who's your question for?
Thank you, my name's Kevin. It's a question for Terry, I think, and it's a bit of a rewind to what you were saying before. I think you stepping in as chair is the right thing for the club. But I'm a little bit confused. I read the statement, which I thought very good, the timing of it and everything else. My question is, and I don't know if it's for Terry or for Gavin, and I know it takes time for Companies House to get updated. I'm just wondering, in the statement, I never picked up the fact that whether David has left the club or is still a board member. It's quite clear that you've stepped up as chair and he's stepped down. But my question is David still on the board in any way, shape or form?
David, yes, I'm on. David is still, as at today, David is still on the board and David is still a shareholder.
Okay, thank you.
That's fact.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to have a chat when we get over to Switzerland and we'll see where we go from there. But that's it. I spoke to David this morning and he's happy with that. But he said, I'm going to stay away, so you've got running this, and it keeps things simple, and that's how you will all see it. He's not going to be so obvious, but he won't find it that easy, because he didn't come to Harrogate on Saturday, but when we were talking about the match on Saturday, he said, oh yeah, I watched it. So he's still that interested, if I may say that, Kevin.
Okay,
but he's making room for me to not be confuse others, as it were. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next question, from a very familiar face from this gentleman. Introduce yourself, sir, and who's your question for?
My name's Les, and the question's for Grant. Grant, you say we've got various players coming back to fitness, just under a fortnight's time. We're away at Bradford. Will we have enough players back fit so that if the team coach breaks down, we've got enough players to push the coach to his destination without having to use the supporters coaches again?
I don't know if any people in the room is on the supporters buses, but the players and the staff are really appreciative of what was done, and it was unfortunate. I'm not even sure Terry knows about this. So it was one of those things, unfortunately, and it was really appreciative that the fans let us jump on the coach and take us in. Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Right, that's the travel arrangements sorted out for our next game. Another familiar face and voice, Mr. Aaron Chalner. Who's your question for, Aaron?
So my question is for Terry, and if Gavin wants to get involved with that question as well. First of all, quickly, Terry, congratulations on taking the role as chairman, and Gavin, great for all the work you've done commercially with the club. Obviously you stepped in this chairman role, as you said, David Bunn's taken a step back, but still a part of the board and still a part of the shareholder situation at the club at the board level. My question is, with you stepping in the role as chairman, is it a long-term vision? Will you be steadying the ship until an investor comes in short term to help you bring in extra finances to the club to help reinvest more money into the club along with your finances, or are you the long-term vision chairman?
No green light, you put the green light out.
Oh dear.
Does that to a lot of people.
I curse people, I do that.
No. Well, thanks for your question. And some of it I can't answer because I don't know. All I can tell you, well, I've told you on the, on the finance, and I've mentioned the shareholdings. I cannot explain it. But since that meeting 3 weeks ago, I've been pondering this, and I can't explain to you why I'm so excited. I honestly am, and I think when I first addressed you all at one of these meetings, my ambition was to get the club self-sufficient. I think they were the words I used, and we're not yet self-sufficient, but we have signs of being able to move that way, getting the injuries under control more, and we've got initiatives to do that, because we're throwing away £500,000 this year on injuries, and maybe it's even more if we take into account the amount of we're having to pay to get all the medical attention. So these are the areas where we can make differences. We've made huge strides, I feel, on everything else around the club, which is important to me. When I came in 2006, it was because, I felt I owed a debt to Doncaster, who've been great supporters of Keep Moulton and encouraged us to grow and helped us to grow. And so it is a way of repaying that. And I think the work that goes on from Club Doncaster in the community, is very satisfying for me, and I hope it's appreciated by all you. You're going to learn a little bit more maybe tonight about it. One of the next steps that Gavin and I have already talked about is, we want to work closer with the local authorities, because we're doing a lot of things that they should be very pleased with, and they should be a good supporter of this club. So my endeavours are to use the next year or two, because I feel great, I feel enthusiastic, and I want to use that energy, if you like, to see if we can just turn the club around totally on the pitch, maintain what we're doing off the pitch, and then make it much more financially sustainable. And then we'll find somebody else ultimately to take over, because with all of you in this room, you're all getting older day by day, and so am I'm afraid. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, but I 100% trust you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Aaron. I'm just going to over to Gavin, who would like to step in there.
Should be on.
Yeah, good, thank you. I just want to go back to the question about injuries, because I thought it was a really good question. Grant, without putting you on the spot, can you go through the recruitment process? Because I think people genuinely find it interesting, and the difference you've made in how we recruit a player, from the scouting, the 3 months of scouting, etc. Because part of the injuries, I think Grant is trying to protect people on this side of the table to a degree that inherited a load of injuries. And if we were to go through the injuries that he's inherited, they're considerable and they're long term. So one of the things that Grant has done is come in and change the recruitment process. And part of that as well is what Grant has, and this is a compliment, put people like myself under pressure, is to really work on the backroom staff and the quality of the backroom staff that support Grant. So he talked about Dave Rennie, for instance. And Dave Rennie's come in and already is doing a piece of work to say what could the medical department look like going forward. One, to obviously stop people getting injured, but two, to bring them back quicker and to identify when they come back. But the biggest thing is probably the recruitment, and the recruitment of the players, robust players. And the process now is considerable. So I just wonder whether you can go through that, Grant, just to assure people that it's high on your agenda.
Yeah, there was a big change in terms of mindset in the club when I came in. I felt just in the coaching staff, obviously moving James Coppinger's role and to work with us a bit more on the recruitment, because he's got a great eye for a player. So is Lee Glover, who we brought in as a first team coach. So the department is a lot more aligned, I feel, in terms of what we want to bring into the club, and I feel it's something that we've worked hard on over the years, even at my previous clubs, and the first time I was here, where we had a proper process in place when we brought a player in. It wasn't just a player that was put on to us by an agent and we went and signed them the next day. You know, we have certain targets, possibly 3-4 targets in every single position, that we have worked through from probably the start of the season leading into this window. It's not easy to do because it's easy identifying targets, but then obviously the financial side of it and whether clubs will let them out and things like that is always a hard bit for us. But the process has been relentless. Numerous games watched, numerous scout reports of our scouts and members of our staff going to watch games and sending back reports, grading systems of where they fit in terms of A, B, C, D, sign, not sign, monitor, etc. And with the back of this, always our physio is looking really deeply into the history of how can they come and be a part of us and be robust. So there's a lot goes into bringing in a player now for us, and it's something that I've always done at previous clubs. You know, I think it's important you have that process in place. Otherwise, it ends up being a bit of a free for all when you get into windows. So we want to try and keep aligned on that in terms of our process.
Brilliant, okay. Fourth set of batteries, Terry. I think it must be the cold weather, that's all I can say. God bless you, thank you. Right, okay, so we're going to try and spread the net as far as the questions go tonight. We've had plenty from our front row gathered this evening, and lo and behold, we're going to go to the second row. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for? It's Ken.
Yeah, and going back to Mr. Bramwell, for your investment, I really appreciate that. I was wondering if the club considered taking some of the burden off you by providing a share issue for people to buy into the club.
Sorry, can you just give me that again? A share issue?
Yeah, what was considered ever going on the stock market on providing shares for people to buy? Because I certainly would buy some.
Well, that's very kind of you, Ken, but no, I've got mine. So that's very kind of you, but it's certainly not in our mind at the moment. I don't feel necessarily that finance is the problem. I think our budget this year, playing budget, has been above halfway in our league. What would more money have done? I don't know, but I can't say. But there's been plenty of money to go into the league, and what you have, is simplicity. You can walk up and meet the shareholders and come and see them anytime. And if we start getting a mixed number of shareholders, it won't be like that. And so I'm hoping that we can give it single-minded approach, and the whole squad on the pitch, off the pitch, will know where this club is going, and that's my idea, to get the performance and consistency that Grant wants, Gavin wants, and all their team wants, and that's so at the moment that's where we are. Okay.
Lovely, thank you very much for that question. If we can just have a little look around and see if we've gentleman checking his watch there. We've got a couple of positive hands raised. I'll go to this gentleman here because he's nearest. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
Neil, and it's for Gavin. Sorry, no, it's for Grant. Sorry, too many G's. So we see progression off the pitch. The catering's come on leaps and bounds from last year. The digital ticketing's way better than we've ever had before. On the pitch, we've seen progression in terms of performances, but we're seeing, as Grant alluded to in his interview after the Harrogate game, the same mistakes too frequently. And I think coincidentally that probably came out in fans' frustration after Notts County. How do you turn those mistakes into that will to win and that sort of attitude whereby you're going to start eradicating that, and how long realistically is that going to take? Is it till all the deadwood, so to speak, has gone, or can it be expedited beyond that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because again, it's something we think about as a coaching staff all the time. Myself and Cliff anyway, we're constantly speaking to each other about concentration levels and similar sort of mistakes that's costing us in games.
ultimately, you know, for us, we have to just work on the training ground and constantly work with these players because, you know, I got asked a question after the game by a press officer about a lack of commitment. You'll never find that with this team. And yes, there may be times where a mistake or something's happened, or you've seen this happen in a previous game. We have got a youngish squad who will make mistakes. It's a given. Sometimes you'll see it constantly happening, but sometimes, at some point the penny has to drop. And for us, it's about coaching and putting in those scenarios a bit more in training, being a bit more resolute on that in terms of how we work on training, and hopefully the mistakes stop happening and we get better and we're strong defensively and we're less easy to score against, as we've probably seen this season in some of the games. Because I do agree with you, I think we've had a tough start to the season. It could have been so different if we had had the penalty here at home to Harrogate and we win the game 1-0 and maybe we went on a run. It didn't happen. We went 6 or 7 games without a win, although we beat Hull in the middle of it. And then we started to pick up a little bit, but win one, draw one, lose one, win one, draw one, lose one. For us, it's not what we want to be and how we want to be, so the players understand that. Ultimately, we want to try and get stronger all the time, but putting these players in those scenarios and training a bit more to put them in that position when they come onto a pitch, it's second nature to them. So we're trying our best to get the best out of them.
Excellent, thanks for your clear answer there, Grant. We've got another question along the same row here. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
It's Brian for Grant. Do you think you've got the players to play the preferred system at the club that you'd like to play?
Yeah, I mean, look, we started the season, it's a good question, Brandon. We started the season in a 4-3-3 and it's a system that I like, whether it's 2 under the ball, when I say 2 under the ball, 2 midfield players, or 1 under the ball and 2 eights. Unfortunately, what happened to us really early in the season as well, all our fullbacks got injured at the same time. We had to change the shape a little bit, but not the style. You know, the style, we wanted to try and keep the style the same in terms of how we wanted to play. We recruited in the summer for a 4-3-3, but also adaptable if we needed to change into a 3-5-2. So I do think we've got the players. We are getting stronger all the time. I think the 2 players that's come in will certainly help us. We're still looking to add into this window with 1 or 2 other players, and also trying to keep the players on the pitch, trying to get 1 or 2 off the injury table. I think we're as strong as anyone in the division, and I think we can give anyone a game. But obviously the key is, and I think everyone, apart from the teams who are in the top 3 of each division, are searching for that consistency, and we're no different.
Lovely. Just one last quick one before we...
It's on the playing front. We're signing players, young players. You know, don't you think, or I think as a supporter, that we need to get an older head in who can put his foot in and calm me down in midfield, rather than the young lads with no experience. We're in the middle of the second division and we need somebody who can put it about a bit, if you don't want a better words, rather than young, inexperienced lads. A bit of experience in. You know, it's nice to see players coming in, but when they're 19, 20, 21, are they experienced enough to get us out of the situation we're in now?
Yeah, this sort of question, I mean, I've been in a few of these over the years, and I think it's always a question that comes up about experience. What is experience? You know, for example, if Ben Close has probably played 300 games, probably 150 of them in League One, Harrison Biggins is 28, Tommy Rose 35, Tom Anderson's 30, Richard Woods, you know, that we have got experienced players in there. We really do. But to play the way we want to play, we need to have legs, we need to have energy, we need to have pace. Yes, mix it with a little bit of experience like the ones we have, of course, I agree with that. But I do think there is experience in the changing room. I really do. I don't think that's an issue for us. I think we have got experience in there. If anything, we want a bit more legs in the team. We want a bit more pace. We want people being more dynamic. I think I've spoken about that before. So I do get your question, 100% understand it.
But I actually do think the team has experience. And you can also have experienced players at 23, 24 that's played a lot of games, you know, so it's, I completely understand your question.
Lovely, thanks very much, Grant. Okay, for the minute we're just going to break away from the questions from the floor, but don't worry, we will be coming back to those because we'd now like to bring some input from our foundation, and I'd like to bring to the front of the house the Chief Executive of the Club Doncaster Foundation. A very warm welcome to John Davis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and first and foremost, a huge thank you to the owners for this opportunity to speak to you all tonight about the work of Club Doncaster Foundation, and to Grant and the team for regularly supporting our work, whether that's school visits or wrapping presents over the course of the December months. They throw themselves into it, and I think being a community club is at the heart of kind of what this club's all about, and hopefully we're the organisation and the charity that can support that vision. For those of you that don't know, I get the privilege of leading this organisation, this charity, and ultimately what's our aim? We're here to use the power and the reach of professional sport to improve people's lives across Doncaster, and we do that through education, community outreach and targeted provision, giving people opportunities and removing barriers to access our provision across the board. And we work with thousands of people across Doncaster on a daily basis. Opportunities like tonight give us a real insight and give you guys a real opportunity to kind of see what we do and be proud of what we do, because if it wasn't for the owners or the club, the players, the staff across the board, across Club Doncaster, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, and a huge part of that are our supporters and our participants. So I hope in the next kind of 5-10 minutes you get a real insight in terms of what we do, and if you've never heard from us, which I hope isn't the case, I hope tonight gives you a little insight into that. Just in terms of, I suppose, how we can support, that's a question that we get all the time. And if you're sitting there thinking, kind of in the next 10 minutes, I really like what these guys are doing, I would like to support. There's 3 things I'd like to take away from tonight. Please engage with what we do, whether that's our social media, whether that's our newsletters. They have some great pieces of information on about provision and programs that you could benefit on, or friends or family members could benefit from. And we deliver from the ages of pre-birth, prenatal, to our oldest participant, I think, was 105. So we've probably got something for everyone across the board. And ultimately, kind of doing that, engaging, spreading the word, it helps us engage with more fans, and that's hopefully for the betterment of the football club. I'm delighted that I'm going to be joined by 3 participants kind of at the front here, because what I wanted to do is not just shout about all of our facts and figures, which are brilliant, but hopefully put a bit of realness to the programmes that we run across Doncaster on a daily basis. So I'm delighted to be joined by Lauren, Ben and Brian, who are going to come and tell their stories at the front and other programmes and what they do. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a round of applause.
Ben, come and join me up here. Any Dons fans with us tonight? Yeah? Just for the purpose of the question, can we all say yes? Fantastic. You should recognise this gentleman, Ben Howe, who was a player with the Dons, but a fantastic member of the foundation. Ben, how did your journey start with the foundation?
Well, I've been involved now for around 7 years. I started out at the age of 16, joined the sports college, spent a couple of years there. And from there I just wanted to stay involved. I always wanted a career in sport, and the opportunity to play my rugby alongside that was something that appealed to me. They gave me the opportunity to do that, gave me a pathway into the Dons, which I was very fortunate for. From there I was able to stay on at the uni, spent another 3 years there, came out with first class in my degree, all thanks to the support of the foundation. I've gone away from it briefly, but I'm back now in a working capacity, and I feel lucky to be a part of the foundation. Like I say, the support they've given me over what is almost a 7-year period now, and looking forward to seeing where it goes from there.
So your association's been over a 7-year period, but you are relatively new to the foundation, and just tell everybody about your new role within that.
Yeah, so I've come back to Foundation to work as part of our gym that we have. It's called Foundation Fitness. You probably passed it on the way around. It's broken off from the DCLT and owned now purely by the foundation. I've only been part of it for a month and a half, but I'm already very excited about the opportunities it might bring. When I finished my degree, I kind of went away from sport briefly because I needed a job and get some money. But I quickly realised that I wanted to be back in sport in some capacity, and at the time I was fortunate enough that an opportunity came up to get back into the foundation. So I was ready to get back into sport, but more importantly back in the foundation that had already given me so much, and looking forward to carrying on that hopefully.
And finally, are you still keeping your hand in with rugby league? You must have really enjoyed your time with the Dons.
Yeah, again, I mean, rugby league has been me since I was born, really. It was a lifelong dream for me to play rugby league at an elite level, so I feel very fortunate to have done that. I spent 3.5 years at the Dons, and no matter what happened over that time, no one can ever take that away from you, so I feel very fortunate to have had that time. Again, supported by, I got through with the college at the foundation, and they created that pathway for me, and obviously, as you've all seen with like Bobby, the centre half, the opportunities are there for the football side as well, so we're very lucky to have had that opportunity, and yeah, just grateful for the 3 years I had at the Dons and everything the foundation does, which is why I feel fortunate to have come back and keep being a part of that, just in a different capacity.
Great stuff. Well, Ben, best of luck with the new role, and I'm sure we'll see you around. Good to see you. How are you? You okay? So basically, how did your journey start with the foundation?
So to be precise, I've been here 7 years and 5 months. So I started off as a casual community coach alongside my full-time job, which was a gym instructor. I really enjoyed working with children, adults, all ages, all abilities, and I kind of proved myself when I do my casual role. Then I became a full-time coach, working in schools, and then we developed a health and wellbeing team, and I saw that team, Nick and Scott, and what they were doing. It was just a little project, a little Fit Rovers project, just for men. And then I was like, I really want to work there, I really want to develop the female side of stuff, and work with as many ages, as many people as possible. And then worked as hard as I could. An opportunity came up, full-time as a coordinator, got the role. And then from there, really, kind of, COVID worked really well for us. We did a lot of stuff for social isolation, keeping the community active online, doorstep visits, saying hello to everyone, and that worked in our favour. We got the gym, which we've always wanted, and from there, the projects that we deliver and the stuff that we do has now developed my role as health and wellbeing manager now. So my role, I was an officer in between there as well. So the foundation has allowed me to develop as a person, as a worker as well, and now I've got I say small team, it's getting bigger and bigger under me, and there's a lot of gym members here, a lot of people that have accessed our provision, so for what we do and the community that we serve, it is amazing, and I love what I do.
So you've answered my final question as far as what role do you hold now, but obviously just touching upon when you're on maternity leave, you joined a new programme as a participant. Just elaborate on that a little bit.
So part of my job is helping people achieve their goals in life, whether it be able to do a squat, think about something a little bit differently. So I'm going to walk to work today, start off doing little steps. Can we walk to a lamppost? Can we then jog a little bit, etc. Just little things that changes their lifestyle and helps them lead it a little bit healthier. And then during, obviously went off on maternity, and then we got some funding to deliver Fit Rovers Families postnatal course with my baby. So I came along, and from helping people to being helped myself, it's crazy. Like the how you feel as a whole, as a Doncaster community, being able to come to exercise with my little girl was amazing, and the people that you meet and everything is fantastic. So I'm looking at a couple of our participants now and they're smiling, because unless you've been part of our projects and part of our provision, you don't know how it feels. So yeah, it was fantastic, and it still is. I still attend. I attended on Wednesday. We're doing some squats together. She's 18 months old now, so yeah. We're just now looking at barriers, extra barriers that we already haven't reduced, and trying to get them down and reach as many people as possible by now going out into the community, not just kind of sticking here at the stadium. And we have a very big backing from the club, from the Dons as well. We've got players that access our gym, we've got staff that access our gym, come for a sauna, steam room. We work really well with the scholars, the college, everyone. It's brilliant. Like, I couldn't ask for a better place to work.
Lauren's so good at answering questions before you actually ask them, you know, even without reading my notes. But I think it really just, you know, before we get to Brian, it sums up all the sort of great inclusivity that we have here at the stadium. People outside of Doncaster would see it just as a football ground, but the amount of stuff that goes on within it, educationally, fitness, well-being, etc., it's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Absolutely, and just another thing, so we work with, like I said, a lot of people, ages, abilities, backgrounds, people from different countries, and behind the scenes there's a lot of stuff going on. So we've got a football welcomes project for refugee asylum seekers, and it's even down to the first team donate their old boots, old playing gear, even the scholars, just so we can provide those participants with something safe, a healthy environment to access provision and sport that they love, but in their own country it's not safe to do so. So yeah, it is brilliant, and they've not paid me to say any of this, but it is amazing. It's an amazing place to work, and I don't know any other foundations across the country where they have this much backing from the club, the staff, and every employee really. It's brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you what, the smile on your face and the passion that you speak with, it's absolutely there for all to see. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Lauren. Thank you very much. And finally, Brian, come forward, sir. Nice to see you. How did you first get involved within the foundation?
I'm walking around house today with my Sunderland shirt on, and I turned the corner and a bloke with a Newcastle shirt on ran into me. It was Ray Greaves from Rollington, who was also from this course. He taught me into it, and that's the way I started. I come along to see everybody, and like she says, everybody's friendly, everybody was helpful. 4 years ago. Wow.
And it's funny, isn't it? I mean, some people are put off by, you know, going to a gym. It can be a daunting environment, can't it? You know, because a lot of people are worried the way they look, or will I fit in here and things like that. But, you know, the grander scale of things, it's great for mental health as far as making friends, and as well as staying active and having contact with lots of other people.
Definitely, yeah. I hadn't done too much around the area, and then I come to this, and all of a sudden I've got like friends all over the place now. And I'm going to most villages with friends about. There's just a lot of great people out there you don't realise.
Exactly. I've got to touch upon this. It's not the whole reason why we brought you up, but you are a shining example of what great work the foundation does. But you had an unfortunate incident in a particular session. Are you okay to share that with everybody?
Sure, what I remember of it, yeah. I think these remember more than me. I come to one of the sessions in the East Stand below, and you do your a minute here, a minute there, and I got to the ropes. Don't ever do skipping rope. And I started skipping, and the next thing the only thing I remember is hitting the deck. I went down, and I died. And so Phoebe and Lauren kept me going while the air ambulance come. I think I was ambulance took me to the RCU and CCU and Northern General and general stuff like that for a while. That was 2 years ago now, just over 2 years ago. At least I'm always cuddling these two every time I see them. I'm cuddling.
Sure, they don't mind.
They didn't get enough recognition.
Wow, well, I've got to say, it's a story that we see, you know, so many times around us. It's very, very rarely that, you know, as an organisation and within this building that we're touched and we've seen it firsthand, you know, as far as, you know, Lauren and Phoebe have seen it firsthand. And again, it only re-emphasises, you know, the need for that ability to be able to react, also defibrillators, all that sort of things, to have those to hand. How important is that?
Oh, very important, yeah, prove that. I think when in Aberdeen they had one defibrillator, I think you've got 4 now? You've got 4 now. It's got the held events to get them in all corners of the ground. So some people's going to benefit from that.
Goodness me. Well, the good news is Brian is back involved again, and how's everything going? What sort of involvement are you having now? Are you having to do things a little bit differently since that?
Yeah, I don't do as much, you know. I came back after, you know, nearly 2 years, and I took over a bit. With other heart problems, I couldn't, pacemaker and all that, I can't do too much, so just generally support more than anything now. And any time you do events like this, I gladly come along.
It's the support and it's the contact though and the friendship groups, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, it's friends always get in touch with me all the time. Always. And I get to some Rovers matches and all, by the way.
Fantastic. I've got to pull you up on this. I noticed from your voice. Are you from the North East?
Yeah.
Black and white or red and white?
Red and white.
Red and white, oh dear me. Mind you, there's a good little connection there, isn't there? Just the stripes going the wrong way, but there we go. Fantastic, what a great story, Brian, and brilliant to see you so fit and able. God bless you. Thank you very much. Big thank you to Brian, to Lauren, and to Ben as well, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Incredible stuff indeed. Okay, we do have some more questions, but obviously we have some questions from people who can't actually make it tonight, so that's why we keep the lines of communication very open. People text in, they can email in. Got a couple of emails here. This is from Josh Priestley. Don't know whether Josh has been able to make it tonight. Josh, are you with us tonight? Oh, he is, he's here, lad. Good to see you, Josh. Well, you've emailed a couple of questions in, and this one, Gavin, this is for you, if that's all right. I believe nearly all of our fan base have full faith in Grant to turn our fortunes around. After the last few years of turmoil, what will you be doing to help support Grant in turning this club around? Will there be further increase in financial support to improve the squad with some players that aren't either loans or young players? That is from Josh, who is with us tonight.
I'm looking at Grant to the degree that the money is made available, and maybe a criticism of myself, Terry, is we largely will try and let Grant do what he wants with that money because he's the expert. So, for instance, we have got, since Terry's come on board just in the last couple of weeks, we have improved the governance behind the signing, such as, Adam, club secretary, will say the person's legal to come in, no drug strikes, etc., etc. Matt from finance will say it works within the financial parameters. But largely, and so I think Terry would agree with this, money is made available, and we try and support the manager as much as possible to get the players in that Grant wants. So, an example was even before Terry came on board, Grant and I were talking prior to January about the recruitment for January. And as Terry says, his first meeting was with Grant about that, but it was just to agree that recruitment and to let Grant and his team go forth and do it. There's a massive confidence in Grant's team, and the amount of work they do in the recruitment means that if we were to interfere about the players, for instance, it would be meaningless. I mean, we can set parameters about age of players, size of squad, etc., etc. Largely don't try to. So Grant, do you want to talk more about resources, etc., etc.? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about January as we are now. Really pleased with the two that we've brought in Jay and Connor. Very close to another signing, just so as you know. Really excited about this one. It's a midfield player that will come in hopefully tomorrow. We feel like we've missed the calmness and the control of Zane Westbrook since he's gone. He's got the injury, so we feel like we need somebody in there that can take the ball, get on the ball, make things happen, a little bit like Ben Close can. So that will be hopefully go through tomorrow. Probably stepped ahead of the gun here and killed the media team. Apologies about that. Yeah, so that will go through, and I had a conversation with Gavin and Terry about adding possibly another number 9/wide forward to the front line. I think if you seem to remember the last time I was here, at this football club when we had Malik Wilkes, James Coppinger, John Marcus, we had 3 on the bench that we could change in a heartbeat, and that's what we want to try and do in this window. So we have that change and that freshness coming off to give us that energy the last 30 minutes or so in a game. So I'm pleased in terms of the support I've received from Gavin and Terry. We do feel the squad's big now. This is a squad that's probably been put together from three or four different managers, would you say? So it's important we trim the group as well. over this January transfer window you'll see players moving on. Not because we don't rate them. I think it's important we just have to be honest with the players and try and move forward as a football club. So we're working very hard. We do appreciate everything and all the support that you give us. We're gutted a little bit behind the scenes that we're not reflecting that on the pitch at the minute and consistently enough, but we're working our butts off to make sure we do that for you.
Josh, thanks very much for your question. Thank you very much indeed. Grant, got a couple of questions here for you now. Again, via email. This one's from Neil Wright. I don't know if Neil's been able to join us tonight. No? Okay, but thank you, Neil, for your question in your absence. Good evening. Could you ask the manager why he keeps blaming the team for making mistakes when he's the manager and the buck stops with him? We don't really seem to be moving forward, which is actually a shame. What have we got to say to that, Grant? Please don't hit me.
It's all their fault, isn't it? It's not my fault. No, to be honest, I think what I try and do after every game is be honest on the reflection of the game. One thing I've learned in my management career is that if you try and hide anything, fans can see right through you, because whenever they come to the games, they see what's going on the pitch. It's just trying to be as honest as I can, and if sometimes that feels like I'm overstepping the mark, I apologise. I stick by my players all the time. I think if you ask any of the players, I've got their full backing, or I back them to the hilt, should I say, and try and help them and support them. But it is difficult after a game, particularly in the height of emotion, when there's a camera put in front of you, and you've got to try and stay a little bit calm and composed. So if that is the case, sorry, what was his name?
His name was Neil.
If that's the case, Neil, I apologise, and the way we are as a football club, win, lose or draw, we're together on it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Neil. I'm sure if he watches this on YouTube, we will appreciate that forthright answer from you, Grant. Okay, Grant, another question for you. This is from Barry Cunnington. Has Barry been able to make it tonight? We're going to ask this for Barry in his absence tonight if he couldn't make it. But thank you, Barry, for this question. Grant, why has the season not been as successful as you expected so far? Is this a legacy of what you inherited, the big factor?
I wouldn't say inherited, because we kept the players that we felt could help us in the summer, as well as adding players to the group. I guess, look, if you sit back and reflect on it and you're open and honest with yourself, it's a huge turnaround. It's almost a completely new staff in our first team environment. There's 12 or 13 players that's come in. There's probably 10 or 11 players that left in the summer. It does take a little bit of time. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, the old saying, to try and mould that all together. Also, changing mindsets and mentality of players maybe that was at the football club for the past 2 or 3 years and getting them realigned and refocused. The injuries that we spoke about hasn't helped. So there's been a lot of change in the football club in a short space of time. So we're quite confident, and I speak about it all the time on the press, and quite calm that we will start moving forward. There's no doubt about that. You know, we're in here, and I echo what Terry says. I'm in to win. We're in to win. We want to win football games. It's hurtful when you don't win, but we're here. We want to win football games, and we want to make this club successful. But we do realise it may take a little bit longer than everybody wants, and we're here to try and make that happen. And hopefully we can have a good 20, 21 games left in the season, pick up as many wins as possible, and you all may think I'm mad, but I've still got half an eye on our top 7, so we'll see how we go.
Why not? Why not indeed? Harold, wherever you are, thank you very much indeed for your question. Big thank you to Neil and to Josh as well for your questions. Okay, it's now time to head back out onto the floor and see if we have some, bless you, we have some more questions. Aaron, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to this gentleman first because he hasn't had one yet. Okay, good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Barry, and I think it's a question for all three.
I think professional football is a brutal way of making a living. In the past, we've lost some players that, with hindsight, we'd love to have kept at this club. And I think that we've got a lot of players out of contract at the end of this season. You've explained quite clearly what your process is for recruitment. I'd be interested to know what your process is for releasing players, if you like, which retaining players, what strategy you adopt for that. Similarly, what kind of strategy you adopt for deciding and identifying which under 18 players we want to offer professional contracts to. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to give some context to your question, which is excellent, we've got 15 players remaining in contract this year. We've got 8 out of contract, of which Grant will probably tell you there's conversations about to begin in February with the players that we'd like to stay. And we've got options available on 6 players. So that's just to put it in context of the squad at the moment. And obviously there's the under 18s, etc. So I'll let Grant pick up on the how he considers who to release, how to release.
Could you just explain, sorry, what you mean by options? Sorry.
Yeah, so the club, if they wish, have got an option. So for instance, you may sign a contract for 2 years, and in that contract it will say that we've got until the 3rd Saturday of May to tell you whether we'll extend the contract for another year on our terms, on the same pay or not less than. So it's a called a club option basically. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to echo what Gavin said, I think we wanted to keep our focus on the January window and trying to get some of the players out that we feel that maybe won't play football. Some of the younger players out on loan, which we're working all the time, and I know, speaking to Stuart and Frank, some of the 18s are starting to go out on loan. We've had a lot of phone calls regarding Sam Brown, Will Flint. You'll see hopefully over the next few weeks some of the first year, second year pros going out to get some football. But we try and pick clubs where we feel they're going to play, but we don't want to put too much pressure on them clubs to play them. We want the players to go and find their way into the team, because I know what it feels like when you're trying to bring a player in from a Premier League club or top Premier League clubs, and they're giving you stipulations of how they play. We just wouldn't do it. We wouldn't sign that player to be in that situation of he's got to play, a certain amount of games and things like that. We wouldn't do that. We have to, be fair, because I think once players get a wind of that, it's like, well, he's going to play as bad, so we just wouldn't do that. So February is a time where we have already sat down and spoke about players that we'd like to extend. We haven't actually spoke to the players or their representatives yet, but I think January we have to focus on the window, getting ourselves as strong as we can, and then sit down in February with the players that we would like to keep. The ones who we don't like, who we won't offer something to, doesn't mean there's nothing going to be there for them. It's probably just getting ahead of the game on the ones that we want. But when you get to the summer and releasing players and let players go, it's not an easy job, like you say. It's not an easy job. But I guess that's what we all sign up for.
I know when I was in the industry, making someone redundant was a hard job. It's not easy. I don't envy.
Just to pick up on the 18s, some of the academy staff at the back of the room, where we're really proud of what they do, is the 18s that don't get taken on for first year pros, for instance, scholars, for instance, they work really hard with one, education, so they get employment in a different industry if they want to, but equally finding them clubs elsewhere through the exit trials, etc., but also working hard with contacts. So we've got plenty of players that haven't made it here, have gone to America to do education, to play football, for instance, or gone to other clubs. And the academy staff work really hard at that. So we'll try and treat everyone and value everyone and make them know that they're valued and make that exit as less painful as possible. And I can't emphasise how much work they put into that and the process that goes into that, working with the young player but also with the parents.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, it's not working right, lads. Just put it like that.
Right, okay. Goodness me. Right, okay. Who's next for a question? We're going to go to the back of the room here. Gentleman with the cap on. Oh, thank you very much, thank you. Right, okay. What's your name and who's your question from?
So, Martin, and it's to Gavin and Terry. Being as brutally honest as you feel you can be, Where do you think it went wrong for the last 3 years? To try and use an analogy, since Grant left us to Hull, it felt like the ship started to sink. And the ship's sinking all the way down and it's in free fall. You can't correct that until it gets to the bottom. Re-signing Grant this summer felt like we hit the seabed, so we can now start to raise the ship back to the surface. Where do you think, as being honest as you can be, it went wrong?
Well, you said to be as honest as possible. My honest answer was probably playing budget and finances available there, and except that there was a motivation for sustainable club. What Terry has brought about through his reign, but especially since becoming chairman, for instance, is this balance between sustainability and having the team on the pitch, and Grant talks about the resources. So, probably brutally honest, was resources.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Gavin, and thank you very much for the question. Right, all the way over there. He did try and catch my eye before. And he has done now. In his Rovers hat. Good to see you. What's your name and who's your question for?
It's Ainsley. It's not really a question, to be honest. It's just a point to the top table as a whole. Obviously, it's been a really tough last few years. 3 years ago at this time, we were around third in League One, a couple of points off the top, and then the relegation the following season. Last season, didn't really leave me with much to say other than I was grateful that we had Gary McSheffrey at the start of the season to rescue the points we needed to stay up. I think one thing I can say for probably the majority of the people in this room, if not everybody, James Coppinger talks a lot about positive mindset, and there's been a huge shift in the mindset of the fans since Grant McCann and Cliff Byrne came back through those doors. I think accountability, I think the previous chairman has a bit to play in that, in terms of where the club is. Obviously Terry is not happy with where we are right now, and we've had a lot of statements over the last few years which haven't really felt like they've had much context. I think the statement that Terry come out with has re-energised me as a fan, and I just want to wish Terry and the rest of the top table all the best in achieving those ambitions.
Not a question in there, but a very constructive statement put by our friend sat over there. Okay, let's, right, Alan, or even Aaron. No, right, okay, far away.
I probably should ask the first. My question's to Gavin. As referred to previously, we've had a lot of improvements around the infrastructure and the matchday experience of the club this season, with the catering changes, with the changes to digital ticketing, getting into the ground, and other changes to improve the experience for the matchday fans. And it felt like this at the start of the season, will the summer of 2024 going into the 24-25 season be a phase 2 to that? Will there be more upgrades to the infrastructure and off the pitch changes to further improve the matchday experience? And was this season a phase 1 of that project? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to be really boring now and tell you yes, hopefully, but also the challenges we've had behind the scenes. So for instance, again, people probably don't see that we've had to spend £100,000 just keeping the stadium open. It's 17 years now, old now, and behind the scenes things started to fail, so boilers at 25,000, all the boring things, the backup system that if the floodlights go halfway through a game, £11,000 for instance. So Sean, the maintenance team, all at the back again, have done an unbelievable job because we have to pass a safety certificate. And again, just to give you context, we spend £330,000 a year either cleaning the stadium or maintaining the stadium, which is probably a huge amount. I'm not sure if people are aware of that much. So anything we do on top of that, such as the fan experience, for instance, obviously has to come on top of that. The shadow board challenges largely from a fan perspective, and I don't believe that the chair of the shadow board is here tonight, unfortunately. But where we need your help, and I'll throw it back at you guys, is I like to think if you give us a challenge and we think it's fair, we will throw ourselves into it. So the catering, we used to come to these meetings, put our tin hats on and get ready for a load of criticism, which was fair. but we were locked into a contract, we tested it, we couldn't get out of it. As soon as we're out of that contract, I'm hoping you guys see that we've tried to do something about it and we've made changes, and the feedback we've had positive. So I guess I'll throw it back to you. For your guys, what do you want? And it's not for answering now, stay behind after the meeting, feed through the shadow board, feed through any other mediums. But I'll throw it back to you guys. What do you believe would improve the fan experience on a match day? And so let us know. We'll throw ourselves into it and we'll feed back the successes. I've got my own personal feelings, and like Sean, you know, quake when I say it, but I'd like to have a look at the fan park, for instance, and see what that looks like before a match day. And what the entertainment looks like, etc. But again, that may not be what you guys like. So really, I'll throw it back to you, and you tell us what you like for next year, and we'll honestly feedback whether we can achieve it.
No, thank you. Great, thanks for your question, Aaron, and thank you very much for your answer, Gavin. Okay, Josh, I'm going to come to you in a minute, if that's okay. This gentleman here in his club colours, what's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
My name's Kevin. Now then, just want to clarify a little thing, please. At this moment, Terry, in fact, you've been brilliant, you've done everything. Are you not looking at all for any help, financial help with the football club? It's just you on your own, you're not looking to take anybody else on board?
No, we're not. Because I ultimately will have to find somebody else, and I'll do that by transferring to whoever can put themselves forward as being fans of Doncaster and good for the community. That will be one of the main ingredients of any new owner of this club, in my view. And why it's not on the agenda today is because I want the club to be actually performing much better on the pitch, and I think I'm here now, and that's what I'll be working towards, whilst we can still maintain our activities in the communities, a lot of which you've heard of tonight. And one of the beauties of that, and also while we're thinking of the extension from the Rovers, because I can see up at the back is my friend Carl, and the progress he's made with the Dons. This is Club Doncaster we're talking about, as well as just football, and they're going to have a great season.
You want to expand it, you say you want to do that, but surely if you have somebody else come on board with the money, you could be able to give them a bigger budget to do better things with the club. Because when John Ryan was here, we're signing players like Sully, Richie Wellens, James Hayter, Stocky, and no disrespect, please, the signings you're making now for the boys and girls on the terraces are a little bit underwhelming. Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's what I'm just saying. There's no people, I'm not saying, but if you had more money in the club, not yourself, to help you, wouldn't we be better off?
Well, it depends who it is. Like, are they going to fit into the team that we've got here? And that I mentioned earlier, we can be single-minded, because I've worked now with these, with our management here for a long time, and we can be single-minded and present what influence does any new person coming in. So I'm honestly at this time, I am not looking for anybody to come and help with finance. I think I've got enough finance available to be well above average in this division, and that will enable us to move up the division. I think if we've got cohesion behind the scenes, we can actually beat the performance will beat the budget, and that's what I'm looking forward to, and because I think we can do that, and then we're in a much stronger position to be negotiating with anybody. I don't want to be part of this with somebody else. If somebody else comes along and they're good, they've got to buy it, in my view. I don't want to be anybody's partner. I was partners with Dick and David, and I've really enjoyed that in my life. But I don't want to be creating partnerships, because that can bring uncertainty. And the last thing that Doncaster Rovers need at the moment is uncertainty moving forward.
Thanks for your question, Kevin. Just going to make myself comfortable next to Josh. You want anything in, it's fine. Right, got another question, here we go.
Yeah, so it's just a follow on from the chap's question who was sat behind me. So I was just wondering, what mistakes at board level would you say were made previously? What responsibility do you take for the position that we're in now? And what are you going to do differently moving forward?
Is that to me? Yeah. In all fairness, I think I've just spelled out how I want to go forward. I've put the key words in there, and that's what I'm going to endeavour to do, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Josh. And back along here. Hello, sir. What's your name and who's your question from?
I'm Dave, and it's aimed at Gavin. I have spoken to you about this before. Our fans standing up at the front, in front of everybody else, is just driving me mad at games. I had to stand for most of the game at Notts County, similar at Stockport. I didn't bother going to Mansfield, it's just down the road. I preferred to watch it on iFollow. And I'm afraid that's how I'm getting now. Also, now there's a scheme in for buying tickets, if that's going to keep going, which I think is a fair scheme, but it doesn't take into account if you watched it on iFollow, or as in the case of Barrow, and you've seen me in hospitality, it's far better going into hospitality in Barrow than it is going behind the goal. You get a decent meal, a pint or two or whatever for one all-in price, and you get a nice seat on the halfway line. So something has to be done in my view. I don't know whether anyone else feels the same.
Mike, who sat at the back of the room, stood at the back of the room, safety officer, if you could go there, Jonathan, please.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Mike, can you talk about the efforts you make with the away club to liaise, reference our supporters, their safety, etc.? And I know it's hard because it's out of our control because it's the away club, but I know that you put a considerable amount of time into it, and also the work that you put into this stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. We, on a weekly basis, we contact the person who does my job at every club. There is someone who's a safety officer at every club in the division, in fact in every club of the league, and I'm in constant contact with them to make sure we try and get the best experience for our support that we can get. However, our hands are tied by the fact that it's not at our club. And they don't have the same sort of stewards, they don't have the same sort of responsibility towards our supporters that they do towards their own. I like to think that we here do the same for away supporters as we do for home, but it's difficult to get that response with when you do travel from away. But what we do is, and we are doing for Bradford a week on Saturday, is we're sending some of our own stewards to Bradford on Saturday, and that's something that we've got some feedback from some other games that we've done, because the very fact that they're seeing people who they know negates the problems at times. So on Bradford, on a week on Saturday, there will be at least 6 of our stewards who will be the first faces that our away supporters, which are our support, will see when they get to Valley Parade. But other than that, we are tied by how the other clubs, the home clubs, do. However, if you have any problems, feed them back into us. We will feed them back into the clubs, and we're not afraid of doing so, and we'll try our best to make the next time you go there far more pleasurable.
Okay, Dave just wants to, do you want to come through, sir? There we go. You got a train to catch? All right, take care. Are you catching that train as well? Right, lovely. Okay. Right, just going back to Dave. Dave, you just wanted to follow up on that.
would there not be a case for putting something out on the website, asking people to be a little bit more courteous? I mean, I was sat there quite nicely at Notts County, and then all at once, dead on kick-off time, about 50 or 60 young guys came in, stood right in front of us. Yeah, I'm actually buying tickets halfway down the terrace to try and avoid this, whereas I sit on the back row in kick-off out. And, you know, so all I'm trying to say is, you know, it's just getting out of hand. They're doing it almost for spite. It's not because that's where they really want to be. They wanted to be near the away fans. The same happened at Accrington, actually. I'm missing this out. Because of the rain, they were allowed to come in under cover. And the first thing they all did was pile up as close as they could to the home fans. And, you know, it's so aggravating. You sat there, it was only got about 6 rows at Accrington, and you sat near the back and suddenly you can't see a damn thing for half the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Tracy in the ticket office works really hard to do is talk to the away club about a seating area, a designated seating area, a non-singing area, etc. But, you know, we are largely in the hands of the away club with the comments making. I know Phil on the shadow board made the same comments about Stockport County away, for instance, and we made representations to them, had in-depth conversations, but largely, you know, we are powerless to that extent. I'm not sure a message on the website appealing to fans not to stand would be that helpful. It would be far better if we come to arrangements with clubs. People such as yourself can sit in a designated area, and that's what Tracy's endeavouring to do. And that will go on a website to say we've managed to secure this. Dean, you know, slow of the year, for instance, puts much messages out. He intends to manage match day as well. So I think the biggest solution is for us to work with other clubs to have a designated area, and for guys like yourself to sit in that designated area. Again, some clubs are more helpful than others. We've had some good conversations with other clubs. Some are not keen to engage, but we will just be clear when clubs have engaged, when they haven't, and you can decide whether you go or not. That's your decision.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much for your input, and rest assured we'll be looked into and everything taken on board there. Off the back of that, our Chief Operating Officer Sean Lockwood would like to address you all right now. Sean.
Yeah, it's just picking up on the points thing and the new system that we tried for Harrogate. So that's come from the Supporters Club and the Shadow Board, James Ennington, who I think was meant to be here tonight, but I can't see him, have kind of pushed that. And we tried it for Harrogate, and I think it was successful. You made a great point about hospitality for the away, so that's something we've not considered, so we'll look at that and see how we can kind of follow that for when you've gone to away games, you've got in hospitality. With regards to iFollow, that's a product that will probably change next year based on the new EFL digital scheme that's coming in. At the moment, we don't control that, so it's third party, goes straight to the EFL, and we can't track who's purchased it, who's not. But again, as something new comes in over the summer, we'll look at that and see if that's something we can take on board as well. But the idea behind it at the moment is it's just simply being if you've been to a home game or away game, but granted with hospitality, you've been to the game, so that's something we'll look to try and bring into the system.
Sean, thanks a lot for those comments there. Okay, final couple of questions, because we are getting very close to our 8 o'clock finish time, and all the way over there. Fantastic. Don't worry, I'll be there in a minute. Excellent. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
Rick Collingwood, again for Gabby, and I just want to echo what Dave has just said. I've been to every away match this season, and it's just as Dave has said. You get your seat, in there early, all the idiots and hooligans arrive straight from the nearest pub, we know which bus to get off, and they all go down to the front, or they all stand up in front of you. Now surely it's the same people every time. If the SLO looks at them, they know who they are. Let's have a look at your ticket, lads. Oh, you're so-and-so, right. Refuse my ticket at the next away match.
In defence of our SLO, he doesn't have the jurisdiction or authority, though, to take on several hundred people and deny them access.
I agree, I'm not asking you to take off with 700 people. All he can do is have a presence there and let them know that, yeah, we're watching you, we know who you are, Because you come every week, you do the same thing every week. We don't need you. We can do without you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, and I'm sure everybody's comments will be taken on board this evening. And do we have one final question? I'll tell you what symmetry that is. We're going to finish off where it all started. But please, do remind me of your name. What's your name, sir?
Ryan.
Ryan. Oh, no, Brian.
Gary is Gillingham. Can you get in touch with them and see if we can drop off the ground? Because it's too far for me to walk.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely jigging when I get there.
Gavin, please make a note of that word. Gavin's writing it down as we speak.
I tell you what, Brian, you come with the team boss, mate. How's that?
Hey, I'm sure you're all into that. Brilliant. I'd say, as far as Gillingham goes, all we pray for is a dry day. And no way, goodness me, that is one thing we do hope for.
I can't wait for the scaffolding starts.
Oh, well, you and me both, you and me both. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that draws this evening to a close. But before we all reach for our jackets and look at our watches to see if we're going to miss a train or anything, if you do have time, please do pass by the foundation stand. There's lots of information there. There's lots of foundation staff there as well to give you more information if you do want to find out more about it. In the meantime, my thanks go to our excellent top table once again, to Gavin, to Terry, to Grant. Without you guys as well. Thank you very much indeed for the support tonight. We look forward to your company on Saturday for the visit of Newport County. I'm sure you're going to be behind the boys then. From all of us here, thank you very much for your attendance tonight.